Welcome in. If you're a corporate sustainability officer, an energy manager, or honestly, just kind of fascinated by the nuts and bolts of environmental compliance, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're taking on the technical accounting protocols behind energy management. We're going to take what looks like an impenetrable wall of regulatory text and turn it into a totally actionable audit plan. Let's dive right in. So that's the million-dollar question, right? Actually, scratch that. Depending on the sheer size of your manufacturing footprint, it's probably more like the multi-million-dollar question. This explainer is going to be a highly practical, step-by-step walkthrough of the rules. We're definitely not just going to float around talking about vague sustainability goals. No, we're looking exactly at how you calculate your energy footprint based on the strict industry-specific metrics that auditors are actually looking for. To do that, we're zeroing in on the SASB Sustainability Accounting Standard for the fuel cells and industrial batteries industry. This document, which is now managed by the International Sustainability Standards Board, or the ISSB as you probably know it, is really the gold standard here. We are going to tackle one incredibly important metric today, metric RRFC 138.1, which covers energy management. So if your company builds fuel cells or batteries for industrial use, think commercial backup power or utility-scale storage, this is precisely how you're expected to report what you consume. Now consider this exact quote straight from the standard's topic summary. Why do we care so much about this particular energy audit? Well, to put it into perspective, a single large-scale battery manufacturing plant can literally gulp down as much electricity as a small city. You need massive amounts of power in this sector just to run machines, keep industrial ventilation going, and run intense product testing. And the standard calls it out explicitly. This is a relatively low or even negative margin industry right now. That means any cost savings you find through energy efficiency aren't just a nice PR win for the planet, they are absolutely crucial for your company's profitability. The financial stakes are incredibly high. Okay, here is our quick roadmap for the audit today. First, we'll hit total energy consumed. Second, grid electricity percentage. Third, renewable energy basics. And finally, number 4, REC rules and compliance.
All right, part 1, total energy consumed. This right here is the absolute bedrock of your audit. You've got to quantify every single direct source you use, heating, cooling, steam, the whole shebang. But, spoiler alert, here is where we hit our very first major accounting trap. When you're calculating energy from fuels, you have to use higher heating values, or HHV. Think of it like measuring the absolute maximum potential energy of that fuel, catching every last drop of heat it can possibly produce. A super common mistake is using lower heating values because it artificially shrinks your footprint. Don't fall for it. The standard explicitly demands HHV, and you either have to measure this directly yourself or grab your conversion factors straight from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So just think of this as your non-negotiable order of operations. Step 1, identify every single direct energy source in your facility. Step 2, apply those higher heating values to your fuels. And step 3, this is where it all comes together. Convert all those various units into gigajoules. This is so crucial. Whether you're staring at utility bills in kilowatt-hours or measuring fuel in gallons or cubic meters, every single unit of energy ultimately has to be rolled up into one single figure expressed in gigajoules, or GJ, to actually satisfy the SASB standard. Moving right along to Section 2, Grid Electricity Percentage. This is all about your reliance on the standard power grid.
Okay, now that we've got our grand total of energy consumed in gigajoules, how do we slice that pie? To find your grid electricity percentage, you just use a really straightforward formula. You take your total purchased grid electricity, which again, you've converted into gigajoules, and you just divide it by that total energy consumption figure we mapped out in step 1. And that's it. It gives your investors a crystal clear percentage of exactly how heavily your manufacturing relies on the conventional power grid versus other alternative sources. All right, Section 3, Renewable Energy Basics. If your company is aggressively trying to cut its reliance on conventional grid electricity, you're probably already exploring alternative energy. But what actually counts here? Well, the standard defines renewable energy as sources that are replenished at a rate greater than or equal to their rate of depletion. The specifically listed eligible sources are strictly geothermal, wind, solar, hydro, and biomass. So if you're directly consuming a renewable fuel, producing renewable energy right on your site, or buying it properly, it lands in this bucket. And just like the grid calculation we just did, you divide this renewable total in gigajoules by your overall energy consumption to get your neat little renewable percentage. Now pay close attention because this debunks a massive myth in corporate energy accounting. A lot of companies will say, well, my local utility's default grid mix is 20% wind power, so I'm totally going to claim that 20% of my purchased electricity is renewable. No way! The standard explicitly states that the renewable portion of the electricity grid mix that is outside of your controller influence is strictly excluded from your renewable energy scope. You can only include directly produced renewables on your own site or specific power purchase agreements, PPAs, that explicitly hand those environmental attributes over to you.
And that brings us to the final hurdle, Section 4, REC rules and compliance. Listen, this is where auditors will absolutely put you under the microscope. REC stands for Renewable Energy Certificate, and GO stands for Guarantee of Origin. Whether you're generating renewable electricity on site or buying it through a PPA or a Green E certified program, you have to ensure those specific certificates are legally conveyed to you. But here is the kicker with steps 3 and 4. You must retain those certificates. You absolutely cannot sell them on the open market. If you generate solar power on your facility's roof, but then turn around and sell the RECs to another company for a quick profit, you cannot claim that solar power as renewable energy in this audit. That's double counting, plain and simple. Finally, this standard dictates that these certificates must be officially retired or canceled on behalf of your entity. That is quite literally the only way to finalize the claim.
And hey, the strictness doesn't just stop at electricity. Remember we mentioned biomass a minute ago? If you're trying to claim renewable energy from biomass, you can't just burn any random organic material and call it renewable. The standard strictly limits eligible biomass to materials that are certified by a recognized third-party standard. Auditors are going to be looking for paperwork from organizations like the Forest Stewardship Council, the Sustainable Forest Initiative, the PEFC, or the American Tree Farm System. If your biomass isn't certified by frameworks like these or eligible under a local jurisdictional renewable portfolio standard, it just doesn't count. Wow. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground today, right? From making sure we convert every single kilowatt hour into gigajoules using higher heating values, to nailing down the exact formulas for your grid and renewable percentages. But I want to leave you with a provocative question to take back to your teams this week. Go look closely at your energy contracts. Are your RECs actually being retired on your behalf, or are they just sitting there retained, or worse, accidentally getting sold off by someone in accounting? The difference between those statuses is literally the difference between passing or failing your SASB energy audit. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and for sure, I highly recommend going back and reviewing your energy portfolio with these strict rules fresh in your mind.